it's Christy with the Chirp YouTube channel. I'm here today with you for a little review and mini training on this book, The Explosive Child. It was recommended to me not that long ago, and surprisingly, I had never read it. So I decided to pick it up and read it. I have a link for this book down below, so if you would like to order it for yourself, that is a great plan. It's a fabulous strategy for working with kids who have behavior disorders. And a lot of our kids do, let's just admit it. Kids are tough, and sometimes it's difficult to know how to manage their behaviors, especially the ones that don't seem very logical to us. But it can be done, and this book is a great resource for those of us who are trying to manage kids' behavior in a compassionate and a loving sort of way, rather than a rules-based and directive, authoritarian sort of way. If you have a child who's experiencing challenging behavior along with you, affecting your family, affecting your classroom, affecting some other area of your life, I don't really know where it would be other than those two areas, but you never know. In my life, it is kids who are in my program at church. I run a special needs program at my local church, and we have a lot of kids who don't have specific diagnoses. I guess we're about half and half. Half of our kids have something like a genetic disorder or autism or Down syndrome or a similar chromosomal disorder. The other half of our kids have unidentified, unlabeled behavior issues that mean that the typical classroom environment is not going to work for them. I have a video about how to work through that transition process for these kind of kids, and I'll put a card right up there so that you can find that. What usually happens is that video will open in a new window, and then you can come back to this video when you wish to, in case you were wondering how that works. Otherwise, of course, you can watch that video later. One of the reasons that a lot of these behaviors become so entrenched is that we don't deal with them properly because we don't know how. If all we do is try to punish kids into behaving better, that doesn't help the kids who don't have the skills to behave better. If you think about it, let's say that you're trying to teach me how to skateboard, and I keep falling off the skateboard, and every time I do, you punish me by spanking me or by giving me a timeout, although we'll have another discussion about timeouts because I don't like them. And they're not an appropriate punishment for almost every child, but especially for kids with special needs. Back to the issue at hand. I fall off the skateboard, and you decide that the best way to teach me how to ride a skateboard is by punishing me when I fall off. It kind of makes sense now in that light that punishing kids for poor behavior is not very effective, is not going to be very effective, because most of our kids are not behaving poorly because they want to, they just feel stubborn. They're behaving poorly because they have poor impulse control, because they have poor communication skills. There's a difficulty in some area that means it makes it almost impossible for them to behave the way we want them to. This is a tragedy. And that's what this book is so great at. It's great at describing the process of figuring out where the child has difficulties and then talking parents through the process of helping your kid learn those skills rather than just trying to punish them out of him. The first thing I need to mention is that traditional styles of behavior modification deal a lot with that punishing sort of attitude. So the kid does something bad, we punish the kid. The kid supposedly feels better and modifies the behavior, but that doesn't happen with these kids because they don't have the skills to modify their behavior. If that's how you're interacting with a child, how is the child ever going to learn those skills? Who's going to teach the child how to problem solve, what to do in a situation where she is so frustrated she wants to pull someone's hair? If we don't teach, we just punish, those skills never get learned, and there's a huge hole in the child's skills, and maybe they just stop at a certain level and they never get any better because nobody was the teacher in this area. We forget that some kids need to be taught social skills and communication skills and behavior skills as if they were math and reading and science. Rather than just picking them up from the environment, they need to be purposefully taught those skills discreetly. So, how do we teach behavior skills when we don't know exactly what's behind the behavior? The first thing is that we need to assess where the child's difficulties lie. And the author of this book, Greene, PhD. Dr. Greene, you are brilliant. And please, once again, go order this book just to support him if nothing else, but also because it's very easy to read, very interesting, and very helpful. And you can always buy many copies. I recently bought 3 copies. I sent one to the mother of a student in my program, and one to his father, who lives in a different house, and one that they could give to his teacher, who is also having difficulties with him and is trying to use a reward chart. But once again, I'm not certain that that's going to be effective with him because he does not have the skills that he needs to hold himself together to be able to achieve those goals. So it's just going to be sad for everyone if he can't do it, and I don't think he can. As much as I love him, and of course he's brilliant, but he needs to be taught these skills, and we can teach them. The way that the author recommends that you assess the skills the child is missing is by using the assessment of lagging skills and unsolved problems. You can find this online. You can find a copy in his book or on his website. So that makes it really easy. You go down the chart and you say, difficulty handling transitions? Yes. Difficulty persisting on challenging or tedious tasks? Yes. Difficulty maintaining focus? Yes. You check all the things that the child is having difficulty with, and you write in unsolved problems relating to that. So you might write in something like, difficulty maintaining focus, talks out of turn at story time, is the unsolved problem that you might face because of that lagging skill. Obviously, you're going to have probably a lot of these things checked because these are skills that we don't typically teach. We don't typically teach kids how to problem solve or how to learn these things, build these muscles by themselves, and we need to. So typically there will be a lot of areas that you want to work on, but you don't want to work on them all at once because that will be overwhelming. And because this is a collaborative model, so you and the child are going to be working together to come up with solutions that work for both of you. And we can't work on more than one thing at a time. So you want to pick the top one that is the most of the time the one that's the most upsetting in your life somehow, the one that's most upsetting to the child, the one that's most upsetting to you, the one maybe that leads to the worst behavior. If there's one that leads to aggression and him hurting other kids or her pulling other kids' hair, then that might be the one you want to work on. On the other hand, sometimes behavior is so difficult that you want to start with something a little bit easier. You get to decide what you start with. As I mentioned just a minute ago, this is a collaborative model. It means that you and the child are going to work together to solve this problem. And there are 3 basic steps. The first step is empathy. This is where you're trying to figure out what's going on from the child's perspective. This seems weird because in most behavior models, all we care about is that the child stop doing the behavior. We don't necessarily care so much why the child's doing the behavior. We care that the child stops it. And we think that if we punish it enough, it will become unpleasant enough for the child that she will stop. But it doesn't usually work that way because once again, the kid does not have the skills to stop doing that behavior and replace it with something different. So in the empathy step, we need to ask a lot of questions. Dr. Greene recommends we start by saying something like, I'm going to use a kid in my program who really dislikes other kids. He dislikes kids in the class who are younger than he is because he thinks they're babies. He's 7, by the way. And kids who are older he sometimes likes, but if they can't communicate effectively, if they have any behavior issues, he thinks they are also babies. So he's a challenging little person to make friends with if you are another child. I might say something like, I've noticed that you are really mean to the younger kids in our class. What's up? Dr. Greene always recommends that you state the difficulty and then say, what's up? You are leaving the thing open for whatever the child might want to tell you, might need to express, might not even know that he is thinking. There are 5 different ways that a child could respond to this sort of approach. The first one is that he might actually tell you a reasonable thing, such as, I don't think that little kids should be in the classroom with me because I'm a bigger kid. I think it should be like at school where everyone's separated according to age. He might tell me that. When I have asked him, that is not what he told me, but I'm making some assumptions that that's what he thinks. Alternately, he could say, that's not a problem. I can be mean to them, no big deal. You might want to do something in this case called reflective listening, where you might say something like, I think I hear you saying that you don't think it's a problem if you're mean to little kids. Is that what you're saying? Can you tell me more about that? We're kind of trying to dig down to find out if that is actually what he thinks. Most reasonable kids will not think it's okay to be mean to each other. They kind of intrinsically know that that's not a good thing. In this case, I don't know what his response would be. We keep on discussing the issue, and I haven't quite figured out what his true thoughts are yet, but we're working on it. He might say, I don't know, and not want to talk about it anymore. I can, in this case, be encouraging and say, I know we've never really talked about this before, so it might seem weird to think about, but I really want to know what your thoughts are. I want to be able to solve this problem together. So please keep thinking about it and let me know if you come up with any answers. Kids like to feel like they're helping you, and this kind of kid particularly loves to feel as if he is helping the adult. It's not just one way I'm enforcing things on him. This is teamwork. We're going to figure this out together. And if it takes a little bit of time, that's okay. He might say that he does not want to talk about it. And in this case, Dr. Greene has a brilliant statement. Let me read it to you. Don't try so hard to get the kid to talk today that you lose your credibility for tomorrow. There's always tomorrow. That's from page 114 in the book, and that's brilliant. We need to build trust with our kids because it is more than just a one-day thing. I need to help the kid to recognize that I am going to be trustworthy. I'm going to keep on being open to talking about his perspective. I want to hear what she has to say about why she pulls other kids' hair. And I'm going to be patient that if today is not the day when she can manage herself to talk about that, it might be tomorrow, it might be the next day. The last way that the child might respond is by getting defensive. I don't have to talk to you about this. And once again, I need to be patient and say, you're right, you don't have to talk to me about this. I cannot force you. But we do have to solve this problem. And so when you have some answers, I would like to know about it. Step 2 of this process is defining the problem. In the empathy step, I have the kid's perspective, and in defining the problem, I am letting the child know my perspective and potentially the perspective of other people in the family or the classroom. So let me read you a little script I wrote on this topic with this particular student that I have. I might start the conversation by saying what I said before. I've noticed you're really mean to the younger kids in our class. What's up? And in my scenario, he says, I just don't like them in here. And I say, can you tell me more about that? Is there a reason for that? He says, well, I'm a big kid and I don't think I should be in a class with little kids. And I say, I see, you think that big kids and little kids should be in different rooms, like at school. And he says, yes. I might say something like, and this is me defining the problem, I understand that you don't want to be in the same classroom with little kids. The thing is, Dr. Greene recommends you start out by saying things like, the thing is, our classroom is more like a family because sometimes we have little kids, sometimes we have big kids and teenagers and adults all together in the same room. I'm concerned, and then we have to add the I'm concerned part. I'm concerned that you're not learning how to be kind to everyone, even to little kids. If you don't practice that, growing up is going to be really hard for you because younger people are everywhere. There, I have defined the problem. That is step 2. Step 3, of course, let me take a step back and say, for all the details about how to figure out your own little scenario script, your own way to present the issue to your kid, you really do need to read the book. I can't, of course, present all this information to you in a short video. So if this is an issue that you're dealing with, please read the book. It's really easy to read. You can probably find it at your local library if you don't want to place an order for it. If you do place an order for it, I think it's around $10 US dollars. So it's not a huge investment, but it will yield huge returns. Back to step 3. Step 3 is the invitation. This is where I am inviting the child to solve the problem with me. This is so exciting because kids don't usually get to participate in problem solving. They usually get told what to do and then punished if they don't do it. As you can see, that's a very law-based, not very loving or compassionate sort of way to deal with kids who have behavior problems. And that sort of authoritarian approach is often one of the reasons why behaviors get so bad, because these kids are naturally more determined and self-determined. They want to be able to determine their own fate. And when a grown-up comes in and tells them what to do and they have no control over themselves, their behaviors often can spiral out of control, especially if they don't have the capacity, the skills to manage themselves very well. This process is something I'm doing with the child, not something I'm doing to the child. So here are some ways that I can approach this. I might say something like, let's think about how we can work that out. Or, I wonder if there's a way. Do you have any ideas? I might say something like, with the situation with my student, I wonder if there's a way that little kids can be in this class, but it won't be so difficult for you. Or, I wonder if there's a way little kids can still be in here, but you might actually be nice to them instead. Do you have any ideas? We have to trust that the kid is gonna have some ideas because kids are smart and they know what's bothering them. They're gonna have ideas about how to fix it. Some of it's going to be reasonable and is going to meet the needs of all parties involved, and some of it won't. If the solution that the child comes up with is reasonable and mutually satisfactory, then you can say something like, that sounds like a great idea. Let's try it and see what happens. And if it doesn't work out, we'll come back and we'll modify our plan. We're treating this like it's an agreement, it's a treaty, and the child's gonna do his part and you're gonna do your part, and we're gonna see how it goes. If it doesn't go that well, it's not the end of the world. We try again. It's a problem-solving adventure together. You're teaching the kid in this process how to do this himself next time, how to realize there's a problem, how to start the problem-solving process, and then how to come up with a solution that's gonna work for everyone. The more situations in which you do this, the more times you do this, the more able the kid is to do it on her own, which is fabulous. That's what we want. We don't want to punish a child into appropriate behavior. We want the child to grow in skills to be able to have appropriate behavior. That is my little summary about the explosive child. I hope that this was helpful to you. I hope it whetted your appetite so that you want to read this book for yourself, so that you want to get started dealing with some of the behaviors that you're seeing in your kids that are bothering you, whether they are your own biological children, your adopted or foster children, your grandchildren, your nieces and nephews, or students that you have in a program. This process is helpful for lots of kids. Of course, some of our kids have communication delays or cognitive issues where the actual conversational approach is not going to work so great. I will be back in another video to share my ideas about how we can modify this process to work for kids who don't have the capacity to brainstorm back and forth in a verbal way like that. I hope this video makes you happy and gives you hope, because behaviors definitely can change, and you can be the driver of that. I have faith in you. leave any questions down below. Please don't forget to ding the notification bell and click the thumbs up. That really helps my videos to get out to people who probably need them just as much as you do. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.